What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom leaking online, with spoilers going all over the place, streams popping up everywhere, it's getting harder and harder to avoid that, and now we even have a major publication that's covering a lot of these spoilers in depth and has caused quite the controversy online. We'll discuss that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a game that's now been canceled for the Switch kind of abruptly yesterday, and we'll also be talking about a report that's now doubling down on the idea of Sony taking their PlayStation 5 line to the pro level. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass games for the month of May. We'll head over here to news.xbox.com, and we'll start with, well, it's available now, that's Redfall, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. We will be talking a bit more in depth about this game later on in the show, along with the Metacritic that it now has, and some of my experiences playing about 3 hours of the game. But hey, it's up on Game Pass if you're curious about it. Then, moving to May 4th, we have Ravenlock, that's Cloud, Console, and PC. Out of the games announced here for Game Pass coming up, this one certainly has my eye. It's like this action-style adventure game, but I think it may be the art style and maybe the visuals that really is pulling me in. So yeah, I'll at least download that and give it a try. Weird West Definitive Edition, Xbox Series X and S, that goes live on May 8th. Moving to May 9th, we have Shadowrun Trilogy on PC. And then May 11th, we have Fuga Melodies of Steel 2, Cloud, Console, and PC. Again, the big one that people are really discussing right now is Redfall, but Ravenlock, I still think might be the one to check out here, especially when you take a look at reviews and overall impressions on Redfall. Also, we did a really cool video that was posted up, sort of a message from a lot of the people behind the Mortal Kombat franchise, because, as you can see here, it's now 30. It is hard to believe that we've had Mortal Kombat around now for 30 years. It's been that long. And I think back to the first time I was playing it, which was on the Super Nintendo, and I didn't have access to the Genesis with the blood code. That was kind of annoying. But hey, Mortal Kombat 2 fixed a lot of those issues there. But in this video, they basically say thank you for 30 years, and then they get to the end. Seems like they're kind of teasing the idea of Mortal Kombat 12 getting revealed soon, and it's not a secret. They even talked about it in the WB investors call. We went over that in Newswave at one point, because they kind of nonchalantly said, oh yeah, Mortal Kombat 12 is coming by the end of this year. So we've all been kind of hanging out waiting for them to announce it, and based on how much is being talked about currently by Ed Boon himself, and how a lot of different people, sources are alluding to the idea of this reveal coming soon. Thinking either at the Sony showcase that's being rumored for the end of May, or Summer Game Fest. That could happen. I mean, I believe it was announced before during the Video Game Awards, so sure, they could have Mortal Kombat 12 get shown there at the Summer Game Fest. I am curious where they're going to take this franchise now after Mortal Kombat 11. They did kind of dive into time travel a bit there, and then with Aftermath, they could branch into two different story paths, I guess. I'm kind of thinking maybe they do a full reboot of it, but that's the thing I'm most curious about, and I'm hoping the initial reveal and trailer will let us know how they're going to handle Mortal Kombat 12, but exciting stuff. Oh, and we did get our first full trailer for the Gran Turismo movie. We had like a sneak peek before, and they've kind of explained the overall plot for it, but from the trailer, I think it looks pretty good. Initially, I was trying to figure out how they do a Gran Turismo movie, and then we found out they're going to mostly just cover the true story of a person who was really good at the game and was able to win a competition and then actually become like a legitimate professional race car driver and win events. So a lot of story to tell there, and based on the trailer, it looks like they're kind of leaning into the underdog story, the underdog aspect to the whole thing. So pretty cool. It's coming to theaters August 11th, and I'm sure Gran Turismo fans and car enthusiasts alike will get a kick out of it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Kotaku. This was an interesting thing that happened yesterday, and it certainly got the internet in a bit of an uproar, especially on Twitter, which no surprise there, but let's back up a bit and take a look at this tweet here. This is from Ethan, who is the senior reporter at Kotaku. said its preview day for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a huge game I would love for Kotaku to be able to inform its millions of readers about firsthand. Unfortunately, Nintendo still has it blacklisted from advanced coverage, a move I would argue is both unprofessional and coercive. Oh, well that's that's probably what happened. I thought my invitation to the preview event got lost in the mail. Maybe I'm blacklisted for Nintendo as well. I don't know. But the idea of them, or Nintendo, selectively picking out people to go to the preview event, I don't think that's really new for any of these companies. If you're a press outlet that Nintendo feels like you can give them that return on investment without too much risk, because whenever you invite people out to these events, there's always risk involved, always, whether it's that or giving out review copies. Nintendo knows that best because for a while, review copies were leaking out. This was like 3DS, Wii U days and stuff. It was even Switch, really. So, but after all this went down, and yes, people were laying into Kotaku then, now we have a post that went up yesterday, which you can see from Kotaku. Everything we're learning about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom from the leaks. This post kind of takes you to a page that just spoils everything about Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, since people are playing through this game at a rapid pace, which is what you'd expect. The game is leaked out. People are speed running this thing because they want to see what happens at the end. Data mining is now occurring. It's tough to not get spoiled right now. I'm seeing people just attempt to do it in Twitter threads, on forums, just kind of posting screenshots out of nowhere to kind of surprise people and catch them off guard. But to me, as soon as you start covering this stuff, you have to assume Nintendo's not going to invite you to things. Before that, though, they also did a whole piece on Metroid Dread and how it was running really well in emulators and kind of how to set it up and do it. And again, we know how Nintendo acts when it comes to emulators and all these different things. They're not happy about it, not thrilled. So yes, they will kind of break away from you, and in that case, blacklist you from coverage or early access, review copies. And here's the thing when it comes to the press, media, publications. Yeah, they should be able to cover any of that stuff if they want to, but then they should also expect to not be invited to any of this stuff because Nintendo is going to evaluate risk and bring in who they want. And in fact, in some cases, it's probably good to have that adversarial side in the press versus these larger companies rather than attempt to be a marketing arm for every single one of them. And that's one of the reasons why if I don't get a review copy or something, I just go, oh, okay, I guess I'll just buy the game when it comes out and give my thoughts on it when I can. That's kind of it. So yeah, Kotaku, they're allowed to cover this stuff if they want, but they have to also understand that Nintendo's not exactly excited to start handing out invitations to check out their next big blockbuster ahead of time when you're just posting about the leaks from games that were most likely illegally obtained in some way, again, fell off the back of a truck, snuck out the back end of a warehouse or something, and got leaked online. So there you go, Kotaku. Yeah, got yelled at a bunch on Twitter, go figure. Next up, let's talk about a game that's kind of been abruptly canceled for the Nintendo Switch, and that's Marvel's Midnight Suns. Now, we know the game did come out on PC, Xbox Series, and PlayStation 5, so current platforms, and they got that game out right at the end of 2022. It came out like the first week of December, and they said, hey, we will have the Switch, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 versions following up in 2023. Well, they then posted this yesterday, which you can see over on the Midnight Suns 2K website, saying, we're excited to announce that digital versions of Marvel's Midnight Suns on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are scheduled to launch on Thursday, May 11th. So I think it's very important to notice they didn't say anything about physical copies because they don't seem to be printing them. Like, they're not going to send Xbox One or PlayStation 4 discs out to stores, at least the way this is reading. They then go on to say all 4 DLC installments, The Good, the Bad, and the Undead Redemption, The Hunger, the Bloodstorm, will be available on launch day to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One players who purchase the Legendary Edition of the game or the Season Pass. And then they say, note that a Nintendo Switch version of Marvel's Midnight Suns is no longer planned. So it's pretty clear that Marvel's Midnight Suns didn't exactly sell how they were hoping. The game itself, as soon as they started talking about the card mechanics, people tuned out and they're like, that's not what we want. We want it like this is Firaxis. We want something that's more in line with kind of that strategy based game where you don't have a bunch of cards that pop up, that we want that tactics RPG style. But after playing Marvel's Midnight Suns on the PS5 for a bit, I think it's actually a pretty good game overall. It just had some weird things for me when it comes to the social aspect. There was a lot of kind of that sim life stuff that you play as a superhero, talking with other superheroes and spending time outside of combat and building relationships. It was different, I guess, so it is unique, but not exactly something I was really expecting jumping into it. And really, the Switch version being canceled is kind of a shame because this game, I think, works really well as a handheld game. You can play it on the Steam Deck, sure, but the fact that they did have it lined up for the Switch originally and are now moving to cancel it makes you figure that they're looking at their overall ROI and what their plan would be to get it to the Switch, and the numbers just aren't working out. Like, they would lose money, I guess, moving to the Switch, or it's not worth the overall time in order to port it over to the Switch's architecture with ARM and that Tegra X1. And I guess there's also the possibility that it wasn't going to run well in the first place, so why put that version out there? And I think we'll get a better indication of that when we take a look at something like the Xbox One version, which will, in that case, be the weakest hardware it will be ported to instead of the Switch. We'll see it there on the Xbox One and find out, okay, what kind of frame rate is this running at? How many issues does it have? What's the visual quality? And then we can go, okay, I get why there's no Switch version now, but certainly a shame for people who were looking forward to it after they announced it last year, and then they delayed it, and now, unfortunately, it's canceled. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro. See, we got done the Switch Pro, and now we're talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro. It just comes full circle every single time. But this is a follow-up to a report by Insider Gaming, and they talk more about the idea of this PS5 Pro, and in fact, how they are now 100% confident that it is happening. We can see this over on the Insider Gaming website from Tom Henderson saying it's been a hot topic of discussion as of late, but yes, Insider Gaming has previously revealed that Sony does have a PlayStation 5 Pro in development. Our report in March was dismissed as being inaccurate by many. That's the MVG call it right there, nice. When it was first reported, and although the PlayStation 5 Pro could be canceled at any given time, Insider Gaming can report with a 100% degree of certainty that the PlayStation 5 Pro is currently in development. Whilst we cannot report on any more specifics at this time, we understand that the first dev kit prototypes will be going to the first-party developers within the next couple of months, with third-party developers receiving them by the end of the year, and they are still expecting that release date, while it is still tentative, Q4 2024. We're still a ways off from it, a year and a half or so, but I am still trying to figure out what exactly the PS5 Pro would bring to the table that's marketable, because ray tracing, I don't think, has gone over as well as developers and publishers were hoping, in the sense that it helps to sell the game. People still have a hard time telling between ray tracing and like just pre-baked lighting and other techniques that have been used in the past. I will say, when ray tracing works well on a high-end machine on PC, like we've seen so far with Cyberpunk, it does look genuinely impressive. But for most, it's not worth the performance trade-off that we see. And that's been one of the biggest things now, is we are seeing developers opt for ray tracing that will just tank resolution or frame rate. Star Wars Jedi Survivor apparently just has ray tracing on constantly, and it's a big aspect of that game and how they designed around it. And we see the resolution drop and like 864p, and the frame rate is all over the place. And it to me just isn't necessarily worth even making an entire PS5 Pro over, unless that's the biggest thing. Like, we gotta figure out this ray tracing thing, or we have to figure out 4K 60. But even then, I thought we were already on our way to at least 1080p 60 with the PS5, and that's been a whole thing. So right now, it just comes down to developers being able to optimize, and I hate to say it, but finish their games before it comes out, because so many of these titles are releasing in what feels like almost a beta stage. It's just unfinished, and then it's one of those situations of, we'll patch it later, and then how much later? Is it actually going to resolve the whole thing? Is it really something we need to do to just throw nicer and nicer hardware, stronger hardware at it to fix the problem? I assume it will be more or less an optional upgrade, as all the titles would still run on the regular PS5. So in that case, it's like, why not? You can just kind of walk past it if you don't want it. It just seems odd, because I'm still trying to figure out what they will solve that's easier to market. PS4 to PS4 Pro, you put the 4K sticker on it, and that was good enough. But what do we do here? There's already an 8K sticker on the PS5 box. But again, a year and a half off, we still have quite a while before we'll hear about this from Sony, and that's if this even turns out to be true, so I guess we'll find out more in 2024. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Redfall. Released the other day, straight into Game Pass, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I signed in and started playing it. I jumped on the Xbox version first because I wanted to see how that 30 FPS would hold up for a title like this, and then I also checked it out on PC. Significantly better experience on PC when it comes to at least the frame rate. The game, that's another story. We can see it over on Metacritic, though, starting on the Xbox side, coming in at a 64. And then looking at the PC side, it's coming in at a 59. So not exactly what Microsoft and Bethesda with Arcane were looking for. Obviously, this might be the lowest rated game I've seen from Arcane so far. And Microsoft, this is the lowest rated game since Crackdown 3, I think? Not the best direction, not the best way necessarily to start continue, I should say, 2023 after something like Hi-Fi Rush, but here we are. And after spending time with it about 3 hours, I played it in co-op because playing it by yourself is just boring. That's the best way I can really put it. And it's weird because this game is basically Far Cry with vampires. That sounds cool, but it feels too generic as it is. The visual style, while it still does feel kind of like Arcane, it also feels like Arcane took a trip back to the early Xbox One, late Xbox 360 era, because there are some very sketchy looking character models and environments in this one. That said, I did have a more enjoyable time in co-op, but I think that's more or less because me, Sean, and Nate were able to kind of make our own fun as we were going through this, getting into some weird situations that somehow Sean always finds himself in. But as we were going through, I started to realize that we were all just playing the same way, even though we're all like different characters. No one's really using their special abilities because we just have shotguns and assault rifles and we're staking different vampires. But I thought the idea was the different characters should feel very unique, but they don't. It's just a very cookie cutter style game where it's mission to mission on a map that's fairly small, and they said condensed, but still somehow feels empty. Overall, it's just a real shame to have a studio like Arcane Austin go from Prey to Redfall. It feels like a step down for them when it comes to basically everything, especially though on the creativity side. And I really can't push back much on that 64 because, to be honest, I'd probably give the game a 6 out of 10 if I just had to put a number score on it. So unfortunate stuff here for Xbox, Microsoft, and Arcane. Redfall just missed the mark. Oh, and you know, it's a real shame here. That's the way that Microsoft debuted their $70 price tag was with Redfall. But hey, at least it's in Game Pass, so if you're a subscriber, you can download it and try it for yourself. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you expecting a 60 FPS mode for Starfield? On the Xbox Series X at launch, 61% say no, 39% say yes. I saw people mention it's Bethesda, so we'll be lucky if this thing holds 30, or if it's not doing all kinds of weird glitches and breaking in some fashion. I would like to think that Microsoft and Bethesda have been observing a lot of the pushback developers have gotten with things like Gotham Knights or even Redfall, though Redfall's cutting it kind of close with the reaction that people gave to that, unless they're going to be able to turn around a 60 FPS mode in a couple of months for Starfield. But I would like to think that they understand kind of the direction of gaming now, where people are becoming more aware of the frame rate they're playing at, and that 60 frames per second is becoming more of the target by the general audience. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that there's a 60 FPS mode for Starfield, but it's Bethesda. Maybe they really do just target a 30 FPS cap on console, and if you want 60, you got to go to PC again. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Jason saying, the Zelda thing is going to prompt Nintendo to start cracking down on piracy, especially with new games. It's just a matter of when. If this keeps happening, I have no doubts that Nintendo will start prosecuting people. So Nintendo has been cracking down on piracy more and more over the last couple of years. We talk about lawsuits here and there and how one person has to pay Nintendo 20% of their wages for the rest of their life or something, right? So Nintendo has been very strict at piracy and has been pursuing people quite a bit behind the scenes, but some have wondered if this is going to affect the way that they distribute games even. Like, because this came out of a warehouse, some were even floating the idea of, get this, physical copies of the game launch a month later. Digital goes first. And it sounds weird, but if you think about it, Nintendo can control the distribution of digital games much easier than physical copies that have to go through many, many different hands and locations before it gets to store shelves. I don't think that's going to happen necessarily, that kind of strategy like the Metroid Prime Remaster setup. But with us moving more and more towards an all-digital future, Nintendo maybe just has to ride this one out until there's no need for physical copies anymore anyway. Also, if Nintendo doesn't want people hacking up or dumping games or pirating stuff easily, don't use the stock NVIDIA chip off the shelf next time, because the way it got hacked in the first place is people just looked up the X1 in a manual and figured out, oh, okay, that's how we can exploit this thing. So maybe next time, put a little time and effort into R&Ding a custom chipset that'll be a bit harder to crack open. And in fact, I think that's what Nintendo's going to do for the next platform anyway. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's Kotaku covering the Zelda spoilers in depth on their website? I'm sure plenty of opinions about Kotaku and Zelda and all that. And then also, what about Marvel's Midnight Suns being canceled kind of out of nowhere for the Switch? Then the PlayStation 5 Pro. Do you think we're going to get one, and would you be interested in it? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.